The next thing that I want to talk about here, just in order of Final Fantasy VII, Evercrisis, and how they're developing more Sephiroth's ideas and Sephiroth's story and Glenn, Matt, Lucia's ideas and their stories, is a couple key plot element points that I think are very important. Okay, so here's one of the key important parts where we hear Rosen explain to us how he views the Lifestream and how the Rhadorians view the Lifestream. So why is this part important? It's important because it gives us more perspective on the live stream and Mako and Mana and the way they explain it. They tell us very clearly that it's a cycle, just like life's a cycle. Life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death. Okay? Same thing works with Mana and with the live stream. There's a cycle of life, there's a cycle of death. There's a cycle of life, there's a cycle of death. There's a cycle of life, there's a cycle of death. You cannot break that cycle, okay? This tells us that if the Rhadorians have been here for hundreds of thousands of years and they're indigenous to the land, this tells us that even before Mako was created, and this part's important, even before Mako was created as materia, these people have living through the peaceful cycle and the war cycle, or the destructive cycle. Peaceful cycle, destructive cycle. And people need to understand that because it's the flow of life. Life to death, peace to destruction. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always going to be. You cannot destroy energy. You could just turn energy into a different form. This is water in a glass. If I heat this water, it becomes steam. The water is not gone, it then becomes steam. If I freeze this water, it becomes ice. The energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be moved into another state of vibration. That's clearly what he's trying to illustrate to us in this sequence, which means a lot of people get focused on, it's like people always want to talk about, well, Shinra's gonna do this, and they're destroying the planet, and they're gonna do this, and we have to stop Shinra, but they don't, like, you have to think about things kind of rational. And not saying I'm right, the way I understand this is as clear as, whether you stop Shinra or not, the planet will still come to its eventual destruction. And that's shown to us in a VR scene on the High Wind, or High Wind 2.0, in Dirge of Cerberus, and it's spoken to us to Lucrezia. She tells us that the life stream that we have on Earth is just part of a larger cosmologic life stream that flows from life to death. And then the energy gets moved into a cosmic life stream, creating other worlds and other planets. The energy is not gone. It's formed up into the crust and center of the earth, and then it's moved outward. So we have to keep that in mind, because I see a lot of people talk about, oh, well, the life stream means this, and the life stream means that. And they're so sure about their ideas about the life stream that they negate the actual physics and the understanding of energy, and they disregard small pieces of dialogue like this that are showing us it's not about holding on and grasping on to something that you're scared to lose, because that's when you lose it. That's the bigger emphasis and philosophical argument that's happening all throughout Final Fantasy VII, is the thing that you care about the most, you will lose. And it's about coming to terms with when you lose it, are you going to be okay with that? This is something deep in a lot of Japanese games and a lot of Japanese anime is you live your best life as much as you can. You set your heart ablaze like Rengoku and you fight your best fight until the end, knowing that eventually there will be an end. And I think the biggest problem philosophically that people have with this is people are so afraid of death that they want to do everything to avoid it. Am I saying go jump in a freaking lava pool? No. But I'm also saying you have to put up your best fight every single day to be able to, when you take your last breath, be happy with the things that you did in your life and about acceptance and forgiveness, which is essentially the internal struggle that Cloud is going through all throughout Advent Children. I blame myself. I have regret for Aerith's death. I have regret for Zack's death. I have regret for this. I have regret for that. You need to get over it, move forward, and understand that in life, you will lose. In life, you will win. And it's about trying to keep that ebb and flow, winning, losing, death, life. All of it is a figure eight circle. And you can't avoid the parts that feel bad, because eventually out of the part that's feel bad come eventually through time the parts that feel good, or the parts that, if you don't want to say like, oh well, time doesn't actually heal everyone, well maybe it's until you're strong enough to actually deal with it. And that's why it's so important in Final Fantasy VII for Cloud to eventually practice forgiveness, practice what the Bible teaches us about forgiveness. It's a key element in finally accepting yourself and moving forward. When we're at the Temple of the Ancients, Aerith tells Cloud specifically, you need to move on. You need to practice forgiveness. Cloud rejects this idea. Are you done talking? Because he's not ready intellectually yet. He's still hurt and marred by hatred, not to understand that it's actually that hatred that's destroying him. The Gi tell us the black materia was fueled by hate, and all of our Gi hate came into one to form the black materia. People don't listen to the story in Final Fantasy VII when those key parts are happening. In the original, Sephiroth had the black materia at the point where we see the finale of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We only get the black materia back at the Northern Crater when we fight a Genova clone, and it drops it and it goes to Nanaki, and then after Nanaki brings it to Cloud, and Cloud gives it to Sephiroth. But why does Cloud have it now? That's a change. That's not the original game. This is not the original game. Newsflash, once again. And when you think about the Gi, and when you think about what Sephiroth's telling Cloud, you need to hate me more. You need to grow stronger. You think about these things, Cloud is putting the black materia in his sword to fuel his hatred. And eventually in Advent Children, we learn he finally accepts forgiveness because he tells Vincent in the ancient forest, I forget what it's called right now, but he tells him, I'm going to practice forgiveness. I'm going to give it a try. And that's when he doesn't lose to Kadaj and all those guys anymore. That's when he goes and fights Bahamut and destroys them. That's when he saves Denzel. That's when he goes and defeats Kadaj, Laz, and Yazoo and fights fake Sephiroth and actually beats him. Kadaj version, not real Sephiroth. Cloud cannot beat real Sephiroth. You already saw it in 7 seconds to the end. Cloud cannot beat Sephiroth. 1v1, Sephiroth disarms him. Easy dub, Sephiroth's the man, okay? But he can defeat Kadaj Sephiroth. Just like 1v1, Zack cannot beat Angeal, but Zack can defeat Monster Angeal because it's no longer Angeal. Same kind of way of thinking about it as that. Next important part. trust and future premonition of what's about to happen. Okay, another very important part of the story. We learned when I showed you the first soldier trailer that PO soldiers are different than the next iteration, which are Sephiroth Genova infused soldiers. So Glenn's asking, okay, Sephiroth just saved us. What's the whole deal? Why is the guy being a punk? What makes him so special? And here Matt explains to him. So here we have Glenn kind of reacting like, oh, what the heck? We're passive models. They're active models. Why are they infused physically? Why are we not infused physically? And it's also to show the willingness and want and will for power that Hojo has with Shinra to become the strongest nation in Gaia or Earth or whatever you want to call the planet that these people live on. Also, the difference here is that Matt's clearly telling us that the active models have an affinity for materia, meaning that they can use materia and we can't, which is later shown in this game when Sephiroth picks up the shards, the materia shards, and he's able to use fire, ice, and a whole bunch of different elemental materia. Glenn clearly is jealous about this fact and thinks it's unfair, but he still thinks he can compete with those soldiers, and that's why he has a little gripe to have throughout this whole kind of part of Evercrisis to try to show we're just as valuable as you guys are, which is a fair enough assessment because I would likely try to do the same thing, that I'm just as important as you, until you kind of find your order in the hierarchy of, okay, understanding we all have a point to play in the success of the mission. So here, notice Glenn and crew are upset at the way that Sephiroth is interacting with other people. He then, because Sephiroth whistled to get them all together, and Glenn is clearly upset about all that. And he's like, what the hell's up with this kid? He calls him a punk cyborg kid, making Sephiroth internalize the idea that he says at the Nibelheim reactor, I always knew I was special. I always knew I was different. This reiterates the fact to Sephiroth, you are different. You are not like us. Sephiroth internalizes that, I am different, I am not like them. And we could clearly see he holds on to that identity into his adulthood because he still feels that same way. Now this part is also important because you can see that Sephiroth has this idea on his mind still about, did I do the right thing? And he second guesses himself here, puts his head down, showing shame. So what does he say now? I didn't even realize it was rude because he was probably whistled at as a kid when he was in the Shinra Manor being trained for all of his war stuff, fighting in the VR simulating room. He's probably been whistled at, hey kid, come over here. And he never thought anything that it was rude. So he's just doing a rehearsed, learned behavior that happened to him. And now he's actually apologizing. Does this war hero, evil guy with evil intentions, does he apologize? They're rewriting Sephiroth. They made this entire game to rewrite Sephiroth's origin, to tell us what happened at the Nibelheim reactor was significant enough to break his psyche. What happens when your psyche gets broken? You're able to be manipulated by Genova. Humbles himself. This is actually my first field assignment. I had no idea that what to do, how to talk to people. And you'll see here that they're gonna be very surprised by this because to them, they've all heard these stories about the great Sephiroth hero. And in chapter 4, we can see that while he's in the lab and he's testing on the other whatever enemies that he's fighting and striking down, all the doctors around him are telling him, "You're a hero, you're so strong, you're the best, you're this." Word gets out, word spread, word of mouth. It eventually gets to Glenn and his crew and to all the other people part of Shinra, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's like this, the next best thing since sliced bread." I'm not a hero, it's all a lie. Okay, wait a second. Well, how would that lie get formed? Exactly how I just explained it. Their company's changing their protocols, so they need to advertise me as a hero so that you understand or that you motivate people to be like, I want to be a soldier. And even just thinking about that whole marketing idea, did it work? Yes, of course it worked. Zack, Cloud, the whole marketing, I want to be a hero. Zack's whole freaking identity, I want to be a hero. Cloud, I want to be just like Sephiroth. We can clearly see that whatever Shinra propaganda was being spread all across the world has worked through Sephiroth. Even, oh, sorry, I don't mean to pause it again, but even in Before Crisis, we can see that the soldier program, they were going around rounding people up with the Turks. You go to Costa del Sol, you go to the bar, you find the strongest people in the bar, you challenge them to a fight. Are they good enough? Yes, they are. You take them with you. That's how we have Azul. That's how we find out when we see Shalua in Before Crisis as well. We find out that Shalua is looking for her sister because the Turks took her sister, Shelk. Why? Because she showed potential to be a heightened soldier. All these stories are the same. They're all similar. You see how it's connected? It's all merging the timelines. A sign of friendship from them saying, okay, we'll help you out. We'll be your friends. We'll help you out. We'll help you achieve the goal that they've stated for you. Sephiroth head is still down. What's your head down mean? Sign of shame, sign of sympathy, sign of insecurity. And we find out here, what does Sephiroth want? And it's probably a question nobody has ever asked him. What do you want? And we'll hear his answer. Holds his heart and says, I just want to live a normal life. I just want to live a normal life. Get married, have kids, play pickleball, play basketball, and throw friggin' Firagas out the freaking off the balcony here and there. Like, this is beautiful. And the people who can't grasp how beautiful this is, don't understand character development, are mad that you're changing the story. No, man, they're adding depth to Sephiroth to show that he has a very deep human side. And at some point in his human side, he was manipulated to believe all the lies that were told him as a kid by Hojo, by all the people around him. At what point does that happen is essentially what the entire story of First Soldier is. When does that happen? When did he go crazy? Did he go crazy? Did he be manipulated? It's clear Genova is manipulating Sephiroth. If you don't get it now, hopefully you'll get it by the end of this video. It's never gonna happen anyway. Essentially saying, I'm shackled to this life forever. No matter what I do, I'll always be stuck obeying orders and doing what other people want for my life and not what I want for my life. Give him a love tap, have a sign of affection. And this adds to the story of Sephiroth having an identity crisis. Am I human? Am I a cyborg? Internalizing how he interacts with other people, not really being sure about what's good, what's bad, because how he's been raised. And here is the second part that destroys the weakness of Sephiroth's identity of being a lost boy, looking for his mother, looking for the love of his mother, someone he's been searching for his entire life, but has been fed lies to follow a trail of crumbs that leads off a cliff. Dr. Lucrezia Crescent, but he's been told by Hojo that her name is Genova. Huge lie, part of the other group of lies from Hojo to Sephiroth. That's what everyone says. So Glenn makes a joke. I hope you know it's not cool to be asking everybody about your mom. Do you know my mom? And then Sephiroth says that's what everyone says, showing us that Sephiroth has asked previously other random people, do you know this woman? Do you know this woman? Do you know this woman? Have you seen my mom? Have you seen my mom? It reminds me of the movie The Town, where Ben Affleck is a bank robber and I guess the Italian mafia guy drugged his mom and ended up killing his mom or whatever. And he says, I remember when you were a kid searching for your mom, putting up posters on every freaking street post and not knowing that she was already dead. And it's like exactly that. A boy longs for the love of his mother. That's what Sephiroth is looking for. And that's what Genova takes advantage of. That's why he's so vulnerable. He thinks he's a cyborg. He's searching for his mom. Who can give him those two answers? And he'll go with whoever gives him those two answers, because he doesn't know who he is. He's empty inside, empty hole. And he's looking for those things to be filled. Once those are filled, I can live a normal life now. I don't have to follow the bosses at Shinra. I can follow my mother's will. Sephiroth making a joke. That didn't occur to me, but now that you mention it, maybe I did do that on purpose. Making a joke. Laughs, giggles, little boy jokes. This is what it's like to live a normal life. Yeah, he's starting to feel that sense of family, that sense of community, that sense of love. Lucia touches his hair. Glenn taps him. Matt gives him a head nod. I'm finally accepted. I'm finally accepted. So this is the part I was talking about earlier when peace soldiers, they talk about, Matt gives the information about how active soldiers can use materia shards or materia fragments as materia, and they can't use them. And that's why the active soldiers are an upgrade from them. And Glenn's like, oh, just chuck it at a monster. And that's as best as you can get out of it anyways. Then we flash over to, well, where was Sephiroth during this whole kind of thing? They find him searching a dead body. They're like, what the heck is this guy doing? See, are you looking for something? He's like, yeah, I lost the locket of the picture of my mom. It's something I value the most. What do his group of friends help him do? They help him look for the locket because they care for him to be happy, and this is something that he values a lot. So we finally get back to the scene where Glenn's found the materia fragment, and Sephiroth's like, oh, I know how to use that. Faraga. Like, it's easy work for him. They're like, what the heck? How can he do that? Active versus passive models. So now we find out that the ground's unstable because the Shinra engineers were digging for materia or Mako, and that kind of increased the destabilization of Rhador. So Matt, Lucia, Glenn, and Sephiroth have to decide, are we going to go back to help save Rosen and get Rifu? So we have here, remember this is important. If you're going to remember anything from the video, it's minor important, but is the name Rifu ever told to Sephiroth? So Lucia says it very clearly right here. We need to get to Rosen and Rifu. Sephiroth clearly heard her say this, Rosen and Rifu. This is where they get in trouble. The chief engineer throws on the ladder and essentially is trying to get them to pick them up and to go to be done the mission. But they're like, no, you have to go do this. So they all refuse to leave, and they choose to go save Rosen and Aerith. So what does that show that Sephiroth's do? I don't want to leave my friends behind. I'm going to go with them. Uses the direct order, goes with his friends, help them save somebody who's valuable to them. Is this the sign of a monster? No, it's to show us the personability of Sephiroth.